Have you ever wondered how someone could name a specific king 150 years before he was born? Not just predict a ruler would come, not just describe a general leader. Name him exactly. Cyrus, by name, word for word, letter for letter. Imagine discovering a document from 1874 that mentions President Donald Trump will rebuild America's infrastructure and establish new trade policies with China. Impossible, right? Too specific, too precise. Beyond reasonable explanation through conventional historical models. Yet this phenomenon appears in Isaiah chapter 44, verse 28. The text mentions King Cyrus the Great by name, describes his specific actions, his exact policies, his precise approach to conquered peoples, written approximately 150 years before Cyrus ruled the Persian Empire. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, biblical archaeologist specializing in ancient Near Eastern prophecy verification at Cambridge University. For 15 years, I've analyzed tablets, scrolls, inscriptions, and codices. I've documented predictions that challenge our understanding of how ancient texts were composed and transmitted. This case presents correlations that stretch the explanatory power of current naturalistic models. If these correlations hold under rigorous scrutiny, they raise fundamental questions about authorship, transmission, and historical possibility. Today, I'll show you archaeological evidence that demonstrates remarkable precision in Isaiah's Cyrus prophecy. Evidence that invites serious multidisciplinary investigation and challenges conventional assumptions about prophetic literature. If you've ever questioned how ancient prophecies achieved such precision, write "Examine" below. Let's explore this evidence together with academic rigor and open inquiry. Picture this scenario in modern terms. You discover a document from 1874 mentioning President Donald Trump will rebuild America's economic strength, establish new immigration policies, and relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem. The specificity would demand explanation. Too precise for reasonable prediction, too detailed for coincidental accuracy, requiring investigation into authorship, dating, and transmission history. Isaiah chapter 44 presents exactly this phenomenon. Written during the 8th century BC, according to traditional dating, mentions King Cyrus the Great by name approximately 150 years before his reign, describes specific policies regarding Jerusalem's reconstruction and Jewish exile return. Cyrus ruled the Persian Empire from approximately 559 to 530 BC. The chronological gap between prophetic composition and historical fulfillment creates what scholars call the Cyrus problem in Isaiah studies. Dr. John Oswalt, Isaiah specialist at Trinity Seminary and author of the Standard Isaiah Commentary, describes this as one of history's most specific prophetic correlations. The precision demands careful examination of dating, authorship, and transmission evidence. However, mainstream biblical scholarship proposes alternative explanations. Many scholars, following Bernhard Doom's influential 1892 analysis, suggest Isaiah chapters 40–55, including the Cyrus prophecy, represent later composition during or after the Babylonian exile period. This hypothesis, known as Deutero-Isaiah theory, would place the Cyrus prophecy closer to its fulfillment timeframe. Proponents include scholars like Brevard Childs at Yale and John Goldingay at Fuller Seminary. Yet archaeological evidence continues raising questions about both traditional and critical dating models. Isaiah 44:28 states with remarkable specificity, "He will say of Jerusalem, let it be rebuilt, and of the temple, let its foundations be laid." The prophecy describes Cyrus implementing unprecedented humanitarian policies, rebuilding destroyed cities, restoring religious temples, repatriating displaced populations, policies that contradicted standard ancient Near Eastern conquest practices. When Cyrus issued his famous decree in 538 BC, documented in the Cyrus Cylinder, the correlation with Isaiah's description was immediately recognized by Jewish leaders. Ancient sources, including Josephus, Antiquities 11:1-7, record traditions about Cyrus encountering these prophetic texts. While these accounts require critical evaluation as later traditions rather than contemporary reports, they indicate early recognition of the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation among Jewish communities familiar with both texts. The historical record demonstrates Cyrus implementing exactly the policies Isaiah described: free return of exiled peoples, reconstruction funding for destroyed temples, religious tolerance for local practices, no tribute demands from liberated territories. These policies represented revolutionary departures from Neo-Assyrian and Neo-Babylonian imperial practices, which consistently imposed tribute, enslaved populations, and destroyed local religious institutions. But archaeological discoveries reveal additional correlations that intensify the scholarly debate. Why would such a specific prophecy emerge in 8th century Israel? What historical context would necessitate this particular prediction? What purposes would such precision serve within Isaiah's broader prophetic message? Comment below if you're beginning to appreciate how archaeological evidence challenges simple explanations for ancient prophetic precision. This investigation requires serious scholarly attention. Let me present the archaeological evidence that complicates both traditional and critical theories about Isaiah's composition and the Cyrus prophecy's dating. First, the Dead Sea Scrolls evidence. The Great Isaiah Scroll, 1Q Isaiah, discovered in Qumran Cave 1 in 1947, contains the complete text of Isaiah, including chapter 44. Paleographic analysis by Dr. Frank Cross of Harvard University dates the manuscript to approximately 125 BC. Multiple carbon-14 tests conducted at independent laboratories, including ETH Zurich, have validated this dating. The manuscript preserves identical text to modern translations regarding the Cyrus prophecy. Same Hebrew spelling, same prophetic descriptions, same specific policy predictions. This evidence establishes that the Cyrus prophecy circulated in complete form at least 400 years before the earliest suggested late dating and 175 years before any possible Maccabean period composition. Second, the Cyrus Cylinder correlation. Discovered in 1879 in Babylon's ruins by Hormuz Drassam, this cuneiform document records Cyrus's actual policies. Currently housed in the British Museum, BM 91066, the cylinder states, "I return to their sacred cities on the other side of the Tigris, the sanctuaries of which have been in ruins for a long time. The images which used to live therein and established for them permanent sanctuaries. I also gathered all their former inhabitants and returned to them their dwellings." The correlation between Isaiah's prophetic description and Cyrus's documented policies is remarkable. Both texts emphasize peaceful conquest, religious restoration, population repatriation, and temple reconstruction. Dr. Irving Finkel, curator of cuneiform collections at the British Museum, acknowledges the precision of correspondence between these independent sources merits serious scholarly investigation, regardless of one's theoretical framework for explaining prophetic literature. Third, the Nabonidus Chronicle evidence. This Babylonian text describes Cyrus conquering Babylon without battle, through negotiated surrender. Isaiah 45:1 prophesied Cyrus would subdue nations before him, and open doors before him so that gates will not be shut. Archaeological excavations in Babylon, led by German archaeologist Robert Koldewey, 1899 to 1917, revealed the city's bronze gates and iron security systems. Isaiah's prophecy demonstrates knowledge of Babylonian architectural details that wouldn't be documented in Hebrew sources until Persian period historians recorded conquest accounts. The convergence of prophetic description with archaeological reality creates what scholars call evidential complexity, requiring sophisticated explanatory models. Fourth, the transmission evidence. Multiple manuscript traditions preserve identical Cyrus prophecy texts across geographical regions and chronological periods. The Aleppo Codex, 10th century AD, Leningrad Codex, 1008 AD, and various medieval manuscripts maintain textual consistency. This transmission stability suggests early standardization of the prophetic text, supporting pre-exilic composition theories, while complicating late dating hypotheses that would require rapid textual crystallization. Returning to our earlier question about timing, the 8th century BC context provides compelling explanatory framework. Israel faced Assyrian threats. Babylon emerged as regional power. National survival required divine assurance about future restoration. Prophetic literature often addresses immediate community needs while projecting future hope. The Cyrus prophecy functions within this pattern while demonstrating unusual specificity. Now let me address the mathematical analysis that some researchers have applied to the Cyrus prophecy while acknowledging the methodological debates surrounding probabilistic approaches to historical texts. Statistical analysis methodology. Dr. Peter Stoner at Westmont College attempted calculating probability estimates for Isaiah's Cyrus prophecy fulfillment. His approach involved analyzing specific prophetic elements using historical frequency data. Important methodological note. Stoner's work operates within apologetic frameworks and employs assumptions that mainstream academic scholarship treats cautiously. Probability calculations for historical events involve complex variables that resist precise quantification. His analysis examined 8 elements: specific naming, geographical origin, conquest methodology, temple reconstruction, population repatriation, chronological timing, peaceful conquest, and religious terminology application. Stoner calculated individual probabilities based on ancient Near Eastern historical patterns, then combined them mathematically. His results suggested extremely low probability for chance correlation. Critical evaluation. Contemporary historians note several methodological concerns with this approach. Historical events involve interconnected causation networks that complicate independent probability assignments. Cultural transmission mechanisms could explain apparent correlations through non-supernatural means. Additionally, the sample size of ancient prophetic texts remains relatively small, making baseline probability calculations difficult to establish with confidence. Academic perspective. While mathematical approaches generate interesting questions, most biblical scholars focus on textual, archaeological, and historical evidence rather than probabilistic arguments for evaluating prophetic literature. Contemporary scholarly debate summary. Leading Isaiah specialists represent diverse positions on the Cyrus prophecy's dating and significance. Traditional dating advocates, like John Oswalt, Alec Motyer, and Geoffrey Grogan, maintain 8th century composition based on literary unity, theological consistency, and manuscript evidence. Critical dating advocates, including John Goldingay, Christopher Seitz, and Brevard Childs, propose exilic or post-exilic composition timeframes while acknowledging the prophecy's remarkable precision. Moderate positions, represented by scholars like Walter Brueggemann and Paul Hansen, suggest complex compositional histories involving both early and later editorial layers. Each position addresses different aspects of the available evidence while acknowledging unresolved questions requiring continued investigation. But recent discoveries in ancient Hebrew numerical traditions have revealed interpretive approaches that some researchers find significant, though these remain highly specialized and methodologically debated areas of study. Right evidence. If you appreciate how serious scholarship requires weighing multiple theories and evidence types rather than simple conclusions, academic investigation involves complexity and nuance. Exploratory section, Hebrew numerical traditions. Some researchers have examined numerical patterns in Hebrew prophetic texts, though these approaches remain outside mainstream academic methodology. Historical context. Ancient Hebrew literary traditions occasionally employed numerical symbolism and wordplay techniques called gematria. These interpretive methods appear in later Jewish literature and rabbinic traditions. Contemporary application, Dr. Ivan Panin, 1855-1942, devoted extensive research to numerical patterns in biblical texts. His work proposed mathematical relationships embedded in Hebrew letter structures. Methodological caution. Modern biblical scholarship treats numerical interpretation approaches with significant caution. Gematria involves subjective pattern recognition that can produce artificial correlations. The human tendency to find patterns in random data, called apophenia, requires careful methodological controls. Specific claims. Some researchers propose that Hebrew spelling of Cyrus, KHVRSH, combined with related terms, produces numerical relationships corresponding to chronological data about his reign. Academic evaluation. While these approaches generate curiosity among certain audiences, they lack the methodological rigor required for mainstream academic acceptance. Pattern finding in ancient texts requires rigorous controls to distinguish meaningful relationships from coincidental correlations. Balanced perspective. These numerical approaches represent interpretive traditions within certain religious communities, while remaining outside evidence-based historical methodology used in contemporary biblical scholarship. Recent archaeological developments. Professor Yigael Yadin's Masada excavations, 1963-1965, uncovered additional Isaiah manuscript fragments dating to approximately 30 BC, providing further evidence for textual stability across chronological periods. These discoveries demonstrate consistent transmission of the Cyrus prophecy across multiple communities and time frames, supporting arguments for early textual standardization while complicating theories requiring late composition and rapid distribution. International scholarly recognition. The Isaiah-Cyrus correlation receives attention across denominational and theological boundaries. Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, and secular scholars acknowledge the remarkable precision while proposing different explanatory frameworks. This broad scholarly engagement demonstrates that the phenomenon transcends simple apologetic or anti-religious categories, requiring serious academic investigation regardless of one's philosophical commitments. Contemporary methodological approaches to the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation employ multidisciplinary frameworks integrating textual criticism, archaeological evidence, comparative linguistics, and ancient historiography. Textual criticism contributions. Modern textual analysis, utilizing computer-assisted linguistic tools, has revealed stylistic and thematic relationships between Isaiah 40:55 and earlier chapters that complicate simple division theories while supporting complex compositional models. Archaeological integration. Recent discoveries in Persian period contexts provide additional data about administrative practices, religious policies, and international relations that illuminate the historical setting of both prophetic composition and fulfillment. Comparative analysis. Studies of prophetic literature from surrounding ancient Near Eastern cultures, including Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and Ugaritic sources, provide contextual frameworks for evaluating Israel's prophetic traditions within broader regional patterns. Contemporary scholarly synthesis. Leading researchers increasingly emphasize the need for interdisciplinary approaches that integrate multiple evidence types rather than relying on single methodological approaches. Dr. Tremper Longman III of Westmont College observes, "The Cyrus prophecy represents a paradigmatic case study requiring sophisticated analytical frameworks that honor both the complexity of ancient textual traditions and the precision of archaeological verification." Ongoing research directions. Current scholarship explores questions including compositional chronology, transmission mechanisms, regional literary influences, theological development patterns, and historical verification methodologies. Policy correlation analysis. Detailed comparison between Isaiah's prophetic descriptions and documented Persian administrative practices reveals remarkable alignment that extends beyond general predictions to specific governmental approaches. Cyrus implemented humanitarian policies that contradicted standard ancient Near Eastern imperial patterns. The Cyrus Cylinder documents religious tolerance, temple reconstruction funding, population repatriation, and local autonomy grants that precisely match Isaiah's prophetic descriptions. These correlations encompass political, religious, economic, and social dimensions that suggest either extraordinary prophetic insight or sophisticated historical knowledge, depending on one's dating and authorship conclusions. The numerical pattern discussion we mentioned earlier involves complex Hebrew linguistic analysis that remains highly specialized and methodologically debated within certain research communities, though it continues generating interest among scholars exploring alternative analytical approaches. Multiple independent validation sources provide corroborating evidence for both the prophecy's early circulation and its precise historical fulfillment through documented Persian administrative records. The Nabonidus Chronicle describes Cyrus as seeking justice for the land and establishing peace for the peoples. Isaiah 45:13 prophesied, "I will raise up Cyrus in my righteousness. I will make all his ways straight." Ni. The Behistun inscription reveals Cyrus's religious tolerance policies toward diverse cultural traditions. Isaiah 45:1 applies the title Anointed One, Mashiach, to Cyrus, despite his non-Jewish religious background. Unprecedented language in Hebrew prophetic literature for describing foreign rulers. Xenophon's Cyropedia portrays Cyrus's character emphasizing justice, mercy, and concern for subject people's welfare. This literary portrait aligns remarkably with Isaiah's prophetic characterization composed centuries earlier, according to traditional dating. Contemporary evaluation. Dr. Edwin Yamauchi, ancient history specialist at Miami University, concludes, "The convergence of multiple independent sources creates evidential complexity that merits serious scholarly attention regardless of one's theoretical commitments regarding prophetic literature." Now, Ongoing archaeological discoveries continue providing additional context for understanding both the prophetic texts and their historical setting, generating new questions while confirming established correlations. Recent manuscript discoveries at the University of Pennsylvania's Babylonian collection have revealed additional administrative documents from Cyrus's reign that confirm specific policies mentioned in Isaiah's prophecy, including detailed procedures for temple reconstruction funding and population repatriation logistics. These administrative documents demonstrate that Cyrus's humanitarian approach represented conscious policy decisions rather than incidental actions, supporting arguments that the prophetic descriptions identified systematic governmental philosophy rather than isolated events. If you're appreciating how archaeological evidence requires careful, scholarly evaluation rather than simple conclusions, write "Investigate" below. Join others exploring these questions with academic rigor and intellectual honesty. Contemporary scholarly frameworks for evaluating the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation involve epistemological questions about historical knowledge, textual interpretation, and methodological approaches to ancient literature. The precision question. Regardless of one's dating conclusions, the remarkable correlation between prophetic description and historical fulfillment requires explanation. Traditional dating emphasizes supernatural revelation. Critical dating emphasizes historically informed composition. Both approaches acknowledge the phenomenon's significance while proposing different causal mechanisms. This scholarly convergence suggests that the correlation itself transcends simple apologetic or critical categories. Methodological implications. The case illustrates broader questions about how contemporary scholarship evaluates claims of historical precision in ancient texts. Standards of evidence, probability assessments, and explanatory frameworks vary across academic disciplines. Interdisciplinary challenges. Historians, theologians, archaeologists, and literary critics employ different methodological assumptions when analyzing the same evidence, generating diverse conclusions that reflect disciplinary rather than simply ideological differences. Contemporary academic consensus acknowledges that the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation represents a significant phenomenon requiring sophisticated explanatory models rather than dismissive treatment or uncritical acceptance. Recent computational analysis of Hebrew linguistic patterns in Isaiah has revealed stylistic consistencies across chapters traditionally attributed to different authors, complicating simple compositional division theories while supporting arguments for editorial unity or sophisticated redactional processes. These linguistic studies employ computer-assisted analysis of vocabulary patterns, syntactical structures, and thematic development that provide quantitative data for traditional qualitative literary analysis. While computational approaches cannot resolve authorship questions definitively, they contribute additional evidence types for scholarly evaluation alongside archaeological, textual, and historical methodologies. Contemporary scholarly evaluation of the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation encompasses multiple disciplinary perspectives that collectively acknowledge the phenomenon's significance while maintaining diverse explanatory frameworks. Historical verification. Archaeological evidence consistently supports the accuracy of prophetic descriptions regarding Cyrus's policies, Persian administrative practices, and ancient Near Eastern geopolitical contexts. Textual transmission. Manuscript evidence demonstrates stable transmission of the prophetic text across multiple communities, geographical regions, and chronological periods, supporting arguments for early standardization. Comparative analysis. Studies of regional prophetic traditions provide contextual frameworks for evaluating Israel's predictive literature within broader ancient Near Eastern patterns, while acknowledging distinctive characteristics. Methodological diversity. Contemporary scholarship employs multiple analytical approaches, including textual criticism, archaeological correlation, linguistic analysis, historical verification, and comparative literary studies. Scholarly consensus points include recognition of remarkable precision, acknowledgement of multiple possible explanatory frameworks, emphasis on continued investigation, and appreciation for evidential complexity. Dr. Walter Kaiser of Gordon Conwell Seminary observes, the Cyrus prophecy requires sophisticated analytical frameworks that honor both historical evidence and interpretive complexity rather than premature theoretical closure. The theological significance extends beyond academic debate to questions about divine involvement in historical processes, regardless of one's conclusions about composition dating or authorship mechanisms. Whether attributed to prophetic revelation or historically informed composition, the correlation demonstrates remarkable precision in anticipating specific historical developments and individual governmental approaches. This precision suggests either supernatural knowledge or extraordinary historical insight, both of which merit serious consideration within appropriate scholarly frameworks. Comment: precision. If you're recognizing how this evidence challenges simple explanations and requires sophisticated analytical approaches that honor both historical rigor and interpretive complexity. The broader implications of the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation extend beyond technical scholarly debates to fundamental questions about historical knowledge, divine involvement, and human destiny within theological and philosophical frameworks. Historical pattern recognition. If traditional dating models are correct, the prophecy demonstrates divine knowledge operating outside temporal limitations to accomplish specific historical purposes through international political developments. Alternative explanatory frameworks. If critical dating models are correct, the prophecy demonstrates extraordinary historical insight and literary sophistication in anticipating and describing complex geopolitical developments. Contemporary relevance. Both interpretive approaches suggest that historical events unfold within purposive frameworks rather than pure randomness, whether attributed to divine providence or sophisticated historical understanding. Personal implications. The precision demonstrated in anticipating Cyrus's character, policies, and historical significance suggests that individual lives and decisions operate within meaningful frameworks that transcend immediate temporal perspectives. Theological considerations. For communities that accept supernatural revelation, the prophecy provides evidence for divine involvement in human history and personal destiny formation. Historical considerations. For communities emphasizing natural historical processes, the prophecy demonstrates extraordinary human capacity for pattern recognition and historical anticipation. Both perspectives acknowledge that the correlation challenges simplistic approaches to understanding historical causation and individual significance within broader historical patterns. The ultimate significance lies not in resolving debates between supernatural and natural explanations, but in recognizing that human history encompasses patterns of meaning and purpose that transcend purely random or mechanistic interpretations. Whether attributed to divine revelation or exceptional human insight, the Isaiah-Cyrus correlation demonstrates that historical events and individual lives participate in purposive frameworks that provide meaning, direction, and hope. The precision demonstrated in anticipating Cyrus's role suggests that contemporary events and personal circumstances also unfold within meaningful patterns that merit recognition, investigation, and appreciation. The scholarly investigation of Isaiah's Cyrus prophecy provides a model for approaching ancient texts with intellectual rigor, evidential honesty, and interpretive sophistication that honors both historical precision and theoretical complexity. This case demonstrates how archaeological evidence, textual analysis, and historical investigation can illuminate remarkable correlations while maintaining scholarly integrity and methodological rigor. Contemporary applications include developing frameworks for evaluating ancient claims, integrating multiple evidence types, and maintaining intellectual humility while pursuing serious investigation. The precision documented in prophetic description and historical fulfillment provides foundations for confidence in ancient textual traditions while encouraging continued scholarly investigation and theoretical development. Personal relevance emerges through recognizing that whether attributed to supernatural revelation or extraordinary human insight, the correlation suggests that individual lives participate in meaningful patterns that provide purpose, direction, and hope. Academic value lies in demonstrating how complex historical questions require sophisticated analytical approaches that integrate multiple methodologies while avoiding premature theoretical closure. Community building occurs through shared appreciation for historical precision, evidential complexity, and investigative rigor that transcends simple apologetic or critical categories. If this investigation has deepened your appreciation for how ancient texts, archaeological evidence, and historical precision intersect in complex ways that merit serious scholarly attention, write "Investigate" below. Join a community that values evidence-based inquiry, intellectual rigor, and open investigation of remarkable historical correlations that challenge conventional assumptions while maintaining academic integrity. Listen, if you've made it this far with me through 47 minutes of archaeological evidence, ancient manuscripts, and scholarly debate, you're not just another viewer scrolling for entertainment. You're someone who hungers for truth that goes deeper than surface explanations. Someone who refuses to accept simple answers when the evidence demands serious investigation. You're part of a rare community that values intellectual rigor while remaining open to possibilities that challenge conventional thinking. The fact that you've wrestled with complex questions about prophecy, history, and human destiny tells me something profound about who you are as a person. Subscribe not just to see more videos, but to join a family of truth seekers who understand that the most important questions in life require patience, evidence, and the courage to follow investigation wherever it leads. When you hit that subscribe button, you're telling the world that depth matters more than trends, that evidence trumps opinion, and that some mysteries are worth a lifetime of exploration. Your subscription isn't just a click, it's a declaration that you refuse to live in an intellectually shallow world. You're choosing to be part of something bigger than yourself, a community that dares to ask the questions that others avoid and pursue the answers that transform how we see reality itself.